أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيبنا وحبيب قلوب الصادقين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين المغصوبين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل لا أسألكم عليه أجرا إلا المودة في القربى صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم وسهل مخرجهم. Dear brothers and sisters, first of all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the organizers at Who is Mehdi for inviting a mere soul as myself to come and register my name amongst the reciters of Imam al-Husayn alayhi salatu wassalam. It is such an elite group of people in the world and throughout the times who have registered their names as the reciters of Imam al-Husayn, and I thank the organizers for giving me this prestigious and humble opportunity. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase their strength and keep them healthy so that they may continue to serve their Imam and the Imam of our time. Recite a salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. We are approaching Ashura. It is the night of the 8th. We remember these nights, and as we approach Ashura, the calamities of Ahlulbayt alayhimu salatu wasalam, the calamities that the Ahlulbayt and their loyal servants faced, they kept on increasing and they were maximizing. The night of the 8th, we understand what happened yesterday, the 7th of Muharram. The water was cut off. The camp of Imam Husayn and his servants and his ashab and his disciples and his family, the camp was barricaded. So the Imam then had to start rationing the water supply. He had to start rationing the food amongst his loyal subjects and his family members. Each of these moments, let us try and take ourselves there to Karbala and try and imagine in every of these moments that what was going on there. And when we remember this, as we have been told through the narrations from the Masumeen alayhimu salatu wasalam, that when we remember these calamities, we should always say, Ya laytana kunna ma'ahum fanafuza fawzan azima. That, oh, we wish that we could be amongst them so that we could have reached those great statuses, so that we could also be successful, which it actually means that we could sacrifice ourselves for our master Imam al-Husayn alayhi salatu wassalam. The topic that the organizers have asked me to speak upon is the mourning of Imam Zaman alayhi salatu wassalam for his grandfather, for his beloved father, father Imam al-Husayn alayhi salatu wassalam. Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. In order for us to understand the mourning of Imam al-Zaman of our time, may Allah hasten his reappearance and may Allah make us amongst his loyal subjects and his loyal servants so that we may serve him in every second of our lives. In order to understand the mourning or the crying, we have to first try and understand crying in itself. Now, crying is a human emotion. It is something naturally occurring. And we know through science has proven it as well. And many of us think that the present science is against religion, but in actual fact, a lot of our Islamic rulings or our Islamic beliefs are inclined with many of the scientific proofs. For example, many of the naturally occurring proofs. As we know, I remember seeing a post just the other day of a microscopic image of tears, various tears that were released or secreted by the tear glands in different moments or different emotions of that human being. So we know crying is an emotional act. And in that post I saw the structural setup of each tear was so different according to each emotion, with respect to each of those emotions. So whether that emotion was in agony, sadness, happiness, loss, that tear setup, that structure was totally different. So it shows that us as human beings, we cry for different moments in our lives. The crying, we need to understand now that, is this something Islamic? Does Islam also allow this? Of course, now we've proven it that it's something naturally occurring, and we cannot then hold this and stop this from occurring, because something that is natural, it always happens. If we are sad, if we are happy, if we have received such a great reward. For example, let's say students who are giving their exams, they have this high achieving goals, and therefore when they go and give their exams, they receive high numbers, A stars, A plus. They are full of excitement. Now, that is not something against Islam to then stop that excitement and that feeling of happiness. Similarly, we know that with sadness at loss of different things, we are told now that at certain things we should feel that loss, we should allow that to come upon us. But certain times we have been stopped from that. For example, when a person loses, I remember as a child, just tell you a quick story, I was playing football at our local club, and I had just put my jersey down, and when I was playing, because it got really hot, and then when I was playing, I said, okay, after the game, I'll just pick up my jersey from the side of the goals, and I'll go home. When I saw, after the game, I was looking for my jersey, I could not find it. And at a tender age of about 6 or 7, for me, that jersey was very precious. So I started weeping for it. But when I finally got home, I got over it, and that jersey became something of the past. I stopped remembering it. I lost total attachment. Now, our scholars tell us about this attachment and the attachment to worldly things, which is also something that I would like to discuss if we have time, inshallah. So when we are attached to something that is not worthy, that does not have a price, that does not mean something. For example, that jersey, I could get it again. I could go and ask my parents to buy it or to purchase it, but because I was a child, I was not able to comprehend that grief. Of course, now as an adult, if I lose a jersey or if I lose my cap or something, I will feel that, oh, okay, I've lost it, so what? Okay, I'm going to move on. Life does move on. We cannot cry over spilt milk. Now we want to understand crying for agony, crying for loss of someone that has been slaughtered, someone that was oppressed throughout his life, someone that, after his martyrdom, what happened? We need to now understand this crying. Does this have some sort of meaning in Islam? Does it have some sort of value? If we want to know the value of this, let's come and look to the verse of the Holy Quran that I was given the honor to recite in front of you, and it's from the 42nd chapter, Surah Ashura. Alhamdulillah, we have all been brought up at the minbar and at listening to the majalis, so we've heard this verse numerous times. But for the sake of the barakah and to purify and sort of, give this beautiful aroma to our majlis, I decided to recite this verse again as a reminder to myself and to all of us, and also to use this verse to analyze the crying of Imam al-Husayn, and also to show that the crying of Imam al-Zaman alayhi salatu wasalam is in accordance to the Sharia, is in accordance to what happened. Now when we look at the verse, it's very simple. The translation according to Ali Quli Qarai, may Allah give him strength and health. He's currently working on the translation of Nahj al-Balagha, and we are eagerly anticipating that as well. It says, the verse says in verse number 23, which is a few lines later, Qul, say. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling the Holy Prophet to tell them, to tell the Muslimin, Qul la as'alukum, say, I do not ask you. Now, I do not ask you of any reward for it, except for the love of my relatives, the love of my kin. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ordering the ummah, is ordering you and I to love the Ahlulbayt alayhimus salatu wassalam. The Holy Prophet is ordering the ummah that please, you have to love my descendants, my holy progeny, the Ahlulbayt. Because I do not ask you for anything else. Just love them. Now when we want to look at this love, we need to understand, is it something with attachment? That, is it with a criteria that no, I'm just going to love them, but I'm going to continue with my life? Or is this love something so deep that when you start loving the Ahlul Bayt, because of that love, you want to start following them? This is something that we need to sort of understand and take our time and think about this. So when we want to love the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salatu wassalam, we know that part of loving the Ahlul Bayt is to engage with them in their happiness and to engage with them in their sorrow. There are numerous narrations. If I had time, I would have started to narrate all of them one by one. But unfortunately, because we just want to wrap this up and we want to continue with our mourning as well, let us just try and focus quickly on some of these narrations that we have from Imam al-Rada alayhi salatu wasalam, from Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, from Imam al-Baqir, from many of the Imams. They continuously said this, that the Shia are those who share in our happiness. They are happy when we are happy. And they are also very sad. They are inflicted with sorrow in our times of sorrow. Now when we want to look at these narrations, and we also want to look at now the ayah that we have recited, قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. Yani this is part of the mawadda. This shows that sharing in the happiness, sharing in the sadness is also part of love. At home, when my dad will come home and he is happy that, today I was successful at work, I landed a very good business deal. He's so happy. Because of his happiness, I am also happy. I show him his happiness. I embrace him and he embraces me. This is the love that I have for my father. Because he is happy, I am also happy. But if my father is sad, something has happened to him, it will naturally give me a sense of sadness and I will want to console him. Why? Because of this love. Similarly, now the love for Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salatu wasalam is so strong, and it must be so strong that it should encapsulate our entire lives. that when they are happy, in their times of happiness, for example, when it's the milad of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, or the birthday of any of the holy infallibles or the Ahlulbayt, the Ahlulbayt were happy. They showed happiness, they expressed happiness. We should also express our happiness. Now it's the time of Muharram. The Ahlulbayt alayhimus salatu wassalam, after the events of Ashura, were always sad. As soon as the moon of the month of Muharram was seen, the face of the Imam, of the holy Imam, would be in such sadness until the days of Ashura would pass. Now we want to look at, okay, that the Ahlul Bayt are telling us to love us. According to the Holy Quran, the Holy Prophet told the people, love my progeny. So we have explained now that through this love, it is okay to feel happiness and it's okay to feel sad. And we must do this. It is compulsory upon us. But at the same time, we want to look before the events of Ashura. Just quickly going through this, before the events of Ashura, we know that Ashura has not occurred yet. Imam Husayn alayhi salatu wasalam has not been martyred. But what happened at that time when the Imam was born? There are numerous narrations and authentic narrations in our Sunni brothers' books, in the Sahih, and even in our books, that show when the Imam, the holy Imam, was born, and the Holy Prophet came to the house of Fatimah salamullah alayha. Recite salawat please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajam. The Holy Prophet said, bring me my son. As in, give me my son Hussain. He called Hussain my son. When he held Hussain, he embraced him. He recited the adhan and iqamah in his ears. And at the same time, he started crying. And everyone was worried. They said, what happened, Ya Rasulullah? He said, just now the angel came and told me that what will happen to this boy? He will be slain on the plains of Karbala. He had informed me of the atrocities that my ummah will inflict upon my son, my beloved son. To which he even said, Husaynu minni wa ana min al-Husayn. Hussain is from me and I am from Hussain. Ahabballah man ahabba Husayna. Allah loves those who love Hussain. There are so many narrations that we can bring that the Holy Prophet said for the rank, for the status, to show the importance of Imam al-Husayn alayhi salatu wasalam. Now the Holy Prophet was weeping and his Ahlul Bayt also started weeping as well. This is even before the events of Karbala. So if the Holy Prophet is weeping, it means it is something that the Holy Prophet has authorized, that it's okay. It is the Sharia. Similarly, we look, when the Holy Prophet passed away, we have a narration from the authentic books of our Sunni brothers that when the Holy Prophet passed away, the al-Mu'mineen Aisha came with the other wives of the Prophet and they started doing latam, and they were starting reciting nawha, as in they were wailing and crying. And latam in Arabic means the face matam that we say. They were slapping their faces. When they entered the room and they gathered together, they were all crying and weeping for the Holy Prophet when he passed. This is something that we have in our history, and it's something that we know that the predecessors, the early Muslims, they practiced. We know even after the Battle of Uhud, when Sayyid al-Shuhada Hamza alayhi salatu wasalam was martyred, and it was such a difficult time for the Holy Prophet because we know what happened. Hinda, she ripped open his chest and tore out his liver and she started chewing on it. When the Holy Prophet returned to Medina and he saw all the other members of the family members of the Shuhada who were martyred at Uhud, they were weeping for their own martyrs. He cried out, he said, is there anyone to cry for Hamza? And he ordered then a group of people, a group of women, to come and start crying for Sayyid al-Shuhada, Hamza, and the Holy Prophet cried himself and he wept. Similarly, we know when Sayyid Ja'far Tayyar alayhi salatu wasalam was martyred, the Holy Prophet was engulfed in sadness that him and his Ahlulbayt, they cried and they did nawha for their beloved who passed away and who was martyred. Now that we understand the Holy Prophet and his Ahlul Bayt did it, they were mourning, we know now that Imam Zaman alayhi salatu wassalam, may Allah hasten his reappearance, is practicing the same sunnah of his forefathers, and he is practicing the exact 100% sharia that the Holy Prophet was given. Nothing less, nothing more. Therefore, his mourning is similar to the mourning of the Holy Prophet. His mourning is similar to the mourning of Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salatu wassalam. We want to also talk about a verse in the Holy Quran when Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam was sort of, he was kidnapped by his brothers, and then he was thrown in the pit, and then he was sold for mere pence or mere cents. What happened is that Nabi Yaqub alayhi salam knew of this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the knowledge that this is what happened, your son is alive. And in the Holy Quran, in the chapter of Surah Yusuf, we see that Nabi Yaqub cried so much that his eyes turned white. He knew where Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam was, that he was alive, but he cried for the calamities, the oppression, and he also cried for the separation of his beloved. Now his beloved wasn't killed, even though the brothers of Yusuf said that, oh my father, the wolf came and ate him, and this is his cloak, and they chucked the blood of a lamb on that cloak to pretend, but they're trying to fool the Prophet of Allah, who has been given the knowledge of the unseen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But still Nabi Yaqub cried, and he cried, and he wept, and he wept. And he would always say, oh my son, oh my son, oh Yusuf, he would cry. So when a prophet is also practicing crying for a calamity, for separation from his beloved, and also his beloved, we need to know that Nabi Yusuf was a prophet of Allah, so the rank of Yusuf was very high, because we know that after Nabi Yaqub, the prophethood went to Nabi Yusuf, so he was the successor of Nabi Yaqub. He was very special in the eyes of Nabi Yaqub, and also in the ranks and in the status of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This we know is the reason also why Nabi Yaqub loved Nabi Yusuf so much. It was not something only emotional, that, oh, he's my son. Nabi Yaqub had 12 sons. He could have loved any one of them. He could have loved them all. But he had a favorite, Nabi Yusuf. And the holy prophets, we know, do not do something from their own whim or from their own desire. Whatever they do and whatever they act is in accordance with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders them to do. That's why we believe them that they are ma'soom. And similarly, when the Imam is also ma'soom, he is continuing this message of these prophets. He is also crying for the separation. He is also crying for the calamities of his father and his beloved grandfather, Imam al-Husayn alayhi salatu wassalam. Let's look at some of the narrations just quickly that Imam al-Rada alayhi salatu wasalam was telling Ibn Shabib, his disciple, that, and it's a very lengthy narration, I will just take out some extracts from it, and just to show the importance of crying for Imam Husayn alayhi salatu wasalam, and how to cry. And when we know this, then we understand that Imam Zaman alayhi salatu wasalam is also following in his father's footsteps in Imam al-Hasan Askari's footsteps, in Imam al-Hadi, Ali al-Naqi's footsteps, in Imam al-Jawad, Muhammad al-Taqi, in Imam al-Rada, Imam al-Kadhim, Imam al-Ja'far, Imam al-Baqir, Imam al-Sajjad, alayhim as-salatu was-salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajjal farajahum. The Imam tells, Imam al-Rada alayhi salatu was-salam, he tells the son of Shabib, Ibn Shabib, O son of Shabib, if you weep over the afflictions of Hussain, such that tears flow from your eyes and fall upon your cheeks, Allah will forgive all of your sins, whether big or small, and less or large in number. One tear on one side of Imam al-Husayn, crying for Imam al-Husayn. On the other hand side, the atrocities that we commit in our lives, they just wash away. Because this is the importance of crying for Imam al-Husayn, that Allah has given such a status that He is reciting blessings, sallallahu ala al-baqeen. Allah's durood, Allah's blessings, peace and blessings upon the people, those who are crying for Imam al-Husayn alayhi salatu wassalam. Imam then continues to tell Ibn Shabib that if you desire to earn the reward of those who were martyred along with Imam al-Husayn, then whenever you remember him, yani whenever you remember Imam al-Husayn, say, I wish I had been with them, then I too would have attained the great triumph. Ya laytana kunna ma'ahum fanafuza wallahi fawzan azima. There are so many different narrations that we can say, so many narrations. And the book that I have in front of me is from Sheikh al-Qummi, Sheikh Abbas al-Qummi, who is the compiler of Mafatih al-Janan that we have at our homes. The book is called Relating to the Heart-Rending Tragedy of Karbala, Nafasul Mahmoom. Inshallah, you can find this online and it'll be in English. And please look at it, read through it, and you will then understand the importance and how each of our Imams cried and wept for Imam al-Husayn. We also know that the Imams used to hold majalis. It did not only need to be in the times of Ashura. There were different stations in their lives. When Imam al-Rada alayhi salatu wasalam was forced to leave Medina and he was going to Marw, Tus, where Ma'mun had summoned him, throughout the way, wherever the Imam stopped and he stayed over, he would, wherever, if it was a house or if it pitched up his tent, he would immediately order that the majlis of Imam al-Husayn take place. He would bring reciters and he would bring poets, and they would start wailing and reciting in such a, in such a way, in such a sad tone, and the poems would be so powerful that the Imam would weep and weep and weep, that the tears would not stop flowing from the Imam's eyes. We know this, the same thing with Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. We know that Imam al-Sajjad cried for 30-something years in his life after the tragedy of Karbala. So imagine Imam al-Zaman alayhi salatu wasalam, dear brothers and sisters. For 1,200 years, approximately 1,200 years, he has been weeping and weeping for his father Imam al-Husayn. And because the Imam is also gifted with the sight of ghaib, of course the Imam sees the tragedy of Karbala. And as we are approaching Ashura, on the day of Ashura, the Imam, he is present in Ashura at the grave of his father and crying and weeping and doing matam. And just a note here, that an idea that came to mind, that how beautiful it is for those reciters who are invited by the Imam himself to recite for the Imam, to create that majlis, that special majlis that the Imam holds. May Allah grant us that we be called and we be invited by the Imam, so that we can also attend that and also recite in front of the Imam and watch as the Imam cries at our mere poetry or at our mere recitals, and that we cry with the Imam as well. The other thing that we need to look at, just to quickly skim through our topics that we have selected now to show the mourning of Imam al-Zaman and to try and understand his mourning, is that yes, he is following the sunnah and he's following the traditions of his forefathers, but we know that he is continuing to flow, he is continuing to cry those tears. The first tears that were cried for Imam al-Husayn have not stopped flowing down the cheeks. They are still flowing down the cheeks, and they are flowing down the cheeks of Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. This will not stop, dear brothers and sisters, until the day of Qiyamah. Even on the day of Qiyamah, there will be a majlis held when Sayyid al-Zahra salamullah alayha will cry out. She will be holding the head of Imam al-Husayn, and she will be holding the hands of Sayyid Abbas, Imam al-Abbas alayhi salatu wasalam. Tonight we will recite his majalis as well and his masa'ib. And she will cry out to Allah that look at what they've done to my children. And the entire world, the entire creation of mankind will start weeping. The angels will weep. Everyone will weep. So we know that weeping and crying for Imam al-Husayn is something authoritative, something stamped. It's something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has authorized us through the Holy Prophet and through the Holy Imams. And it's happening every day. The angels that come and go and recite ziyarah of Imam al-Husayn, they come and they visit the grave. They come to the grave, they do matam, they cry, and then they leave and they go up to the skies and the heavens. Then in turn, another set of angels come down. This is happening day in and day night. Then also on the day of Ashura, there were so many thousands of angels that descended upon the earth, but when they arrived, the calamity had already happened. And they swore that they would stay there until Imam al-Hujjah alayhi salatu wasalam, Imam al-Zaman comes, and they will fight side by side with the Imam and avenge the blood that was spilt on Karbala. Recite a salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Another thing that we need to look at is the mourning of Imam al-Zaman alayhi salatu wasalam, Imam al-Hujjah. One of the ways that we can understand how he mourns is through ziyarat nahiya. And may Allah give us the tawfiq to recite this ziyarah as well. It has been narrated by Shaykh al-Mufid, Sharif Murtada, who was Shaykh Mufid's student, Sharif Radi. Sharif Murtada and Sharif Radi were the two brothers that were taught by Shaykh al-Mufid. Sharif Radi, we know, is the compiler of Nahj al-Balagha. His elder brother, Sharif Murtada, was one of the most prominent scholars of his time in Baghdad after his teacher, Shaykh Mufid. He was so strong in the science of hadith and in jurisprudence. These classical scholars narrated Ziyarat Nahiya. So this is how we know that it came to us. And when we want to look at Ziyarat Nahiya, we know that it's the words of Imam al-Zaman to his father, Imam al-Husayn alayhi salatu wasalam. In the beginning of the ziyarah, they speak about the praise of Allah, the praise of the Ahlulbayt, the salams upon the Ahlulbayt, the salams upon Imam al-Husayn and his different names, the different characteristics, the different ranks that Imam al-Husayn has. And then when we go down through the verses of Ziyarat Nahiya, we find different parts where Imam Zaman starts weeping and crying, because we know that he's weeping and crying as the verses, when we read it, they are so sad and they are so tragic as how he addresses the Imam. Some of these verses, as he says, when he's addressing his father, Imam al-Husayn, he says, As-salamu ala man uriqa bil-dhulmi damuh. Peace and blessings upon the one whose blood was shed unjustly. Imam al-Husayn was martyred unjustly because he was the son of the Prophet. He was the rightful leader of the Ummah. And they committed such a crime on Karbala, on the plains of Karbala. And the way he was martyred was so severe. The Imam continues to say, Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salatu wasalam continues to say, As-salamu ala al-mughassali bidam al-jarah. Peace be upon the one who was bathed in the blood of his wounds. There was not a point of the body of Imam al-Husayn where a single flesh could be left untouched. They threw stones at the Imam. They threw spears at the Imam. Whatever they had, they tried and committed those atrocities. Peace be upon the one who was bathed in the blood of his wounds. As-salamu ala al-mujarra'i bi ka'satir rimah. Peace be upon the one who tasted the spears raining down over his body. As-salamu ala al-mudam al-mustabah. Peace be upon the one whom against people came together and made lawful the shedding of his blood. These people, Imam al-Husayn on the day of Karbala and even before that told them so many times, why are you here? Why are you trying to kill me? Do you not know who I am? They said, yes, we know you. You are the son of Fatimah. But on the day of Ashura, they found it halal according to them. Astaghfirullah. They found it legal to shed the blood of Imam al-Husayn alayhi salatu wasalam. Some of the other verses that Imam al-Mahdi cries and weeps, and we know in another part of Ziyarat Nahiya, he says, when my tears run dry, I weep blood for you, O my father. He says, As-salamu ala al-manhuri fil wara. Peace be upon the one who was slaughtered in public. There was no helper for him. There was no helper. He was slaughtered like the way they slaughter a ram. As-salamu ala al-muhami bila mu'in. Peace be upon the defender who had no helper. Muhami, Imam al-Husayn, was the defender of the religion. And the verses, my dear brothers and sisters, can go on. And I urge you, please recite Ziyarat Nahiya and recite it. If you do not understand Arabic, recite it with the translation. And focus on these translations so that you can cry with your master, Imam al-Zaman alayhi salatu wasalam. And address Imam al-Mahdi in these days. Every day, address him that, oh Imam, I am mourning with you. I am giving you my condolences. Because we imagine that, how is his state? We wish that we could sit by him and we could tell him, Imam, I am here with you. Don't worry, I am crying with you. Maybe this will give some sort of satisfaction to the Imam that yes, there are the Ummah, there are those in this Ummah that are crying for Imam al-Husayn. May Allah register our names amongst the criers of Imam al-Husayn. And as we remember tonight, the night of the 8th, we want to remember Hazrat Abbas alayhi salatu wassalam, al-Muhami. I said Muhami, the defender, who was Imam al-Husayn. He was the Muhami of the faith. And the Muhami of Hussain was al-Abbas. He was the defender of Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam. He was his flag bearer. He was his chief of staff. He was his commander. He was his general of his army. When Hazrat Abbas alayhi salatu wasalam was born, Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam picked him up in his arms. And he was so happy. And then Sayyidah al-Baneen, we know, all of a sudden looks at Imam Ali and she sees him kissing the hands of Hazrat Abbas alayhi salatu wasalam. And while he's kissing the hands of Hazrat Abbas, he is weeping, he is crying. Bibi al-Mu'mineen then looks and she asks, Ya Mawla, is there something wrong with this child that you are kissing his hands? He said, no, these are the hands that will be cut off. With these hands, my son will defend his master al-Husayn. Brothers and sisters, on the day of Karbala, on the day of Ashura, Hazrat Abbas ﷺ was helping Imam Husayn pick up the bodies of the martyrs from morning until the time of Dhuhr. He was with Imam Husayn at every station, picking up the bodies, taking them to the camps, picking up the bodies, taking them to the camps. He was controlling the army as well, as he was the chief of staff. He was organizing different issues that was there because he was held responsible and he fulfilled his responsibility to the Imam. He was loyal to the Imam. He was the king of loyalty. He is the king of loyalty. And he was given such a high rank that when his son entered the majlis, entered the gathering of Imam al-Sajjad, Imam al-Sajjad stood up and the other people looked around and they were shocked that why is Imam standing up for such a young man? The Imam said, "This is the son of my uncle Abbas. He was the loyal one who was slaughtered in Karbala." Each and every Imam cried and wept for Hazrat Abbas ﷺ. Dear brothers and sisters, the Imam then sees that no one is left. He's asking his Mawla, "Mawla, please give me permission so I may go and attack these enemies. So I may go and fulfill my duty to you." The Imam, my brothers and sisters, you have grown up on the mimbar, you know the Masahib very well. The Imam says, "Oh Abbas, let's just go and look at the tents. See what's happening there." Al-Abbas opens the tent and he sees the children. And they are crying, "Al-Atash, Al-Atash, oh thirst, the thirst has killed us." They have opened their shirts and they have laid bare-chested upon the ground so that maybe the ground could give some sort of coldness, some sort of coolness, and it might help quench the thirst of the children. Sayyida Sakina salamullah alayha, she holds the water bag. She says, "Oh uncle, can you bring us water? We are thirsty." Hazrat Abbas ﷺ carries the water bag. He prepares to go and attack the enemies, as I said earlier, that the banks of the Euphrates were barricaded with these enemies. Imam al-Husayn and Hazrat Abbas, they head out. Hazrat Imam al-Husayn heads out in a direction so that he could create a decoy. Al-Abbas ﷺ, with his power and his strength, as he's the son of Haydar, he opens the banks. He destroys the barricade and he attacks the enemy. He goes, he gets the water, he fills up the bag, and we see that he holds the water in his hands. He brings it to his face and then he throws the water down. The ulama here say that Al-Abbas did not quench his thirst because he knew that I will not touch this water, I will not let the water touch my tongue when I know my master and his children are thirsty. He then picks up the water bag, mounts his horse and he changes his directions. He goes through the Nakhlistan, he goes through the date orchards, because he wants to find a shortcut that he can get to the tents quickly. The sounds of Al-Atash are still echoing in his ears. He wants to quench the thirst of the children. When he is running through these palm trees, the enemies, they say, "Oh, he is the son of Haydar, we cannot kill him just like this. Do not let that water bag touch the lips of Hussain and the family of Hussain. Because if these two, Al-Hussain and Abbas, if they touch water, if they quench their thirst, they will defeat us, just only these two." Surround him. They surround him, dear brothers and sisters. One person hides behind one of the palm trees and he attacks the hand that Hazrat Abbas was holding the water bag. That hand falls and collapses, it becomes shaheed. Hazrat Abbas quickly grabs that water bag in the other hand. Another enemy was hiding. This is how coward they were. They could never face Hazrat Abbas directly. He was hiding behind, another coward was hiding behind the trees. He cuts that hand that was holding the water bag. Al-Abbas quickly puts the water bag in his mouth. Both of his hands are collapsed. How is he now supposed to defend himself? He is riding so fast. He is riding so fast until Umar Saad orders Harmala to shoot the arrow at the water bag. He shouts, do not let this water bag reach Al-Hussain and the children of Hussain. The water bag spills. The water bag ruptures. The water flows down. As the water flows down, Al-Abbas himself has lost all hope. Because he cannot now reach the tents. With what face can he show his niece, Sayyidah Sakina, and the children? He then turns around. Because now he cannot reach the tents now. He turns around and he goes into the enemy. We know then, dear brothers and sisters, what happened. They attacked him from all around. They shot an arrow in his eye. Blood flowed down in his face. They finally pierced him. They struck such a blow to him that he fell down upon the horse. He fell down from the horse. But how is a person supposed to help his fall or prevent himself from getting hurt when he has no arms? ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين فسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. With the tears that we have in our eyes, let's remember the Imam of our time and give him our condolences and swear allegiance to him that we have cried for his great uncle Al-Abbas alayhi salatu wassalam and his father Al-Hussain. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا يا رب محمد وآل محمد صل على محمد وآل محمد يا الله تقبل منا يا الله تقبل منا اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات اللهم ارزقنا زيارة الحسين في الدنيا وارزقنا شفاعة الحسين في الآخرة وارزقنا شفاعة الحسين في القبور وارزقنا شفاعة الحسين يوم الورود بحق محمد وأهل بيته الطاهرين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه.